What is up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I'm, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. It's fantastic to be back with you. I'm getting used to this casual cam setup here. Hopefully the sound is not off too much. I didn't invest a lot of time into directionally pointing the mic. I just want to get into today's episode. I've enjoyed the weekend. I spent zero time paying attention to Russia-Ukraine type stuff. I solely enjoyed the weekend with my family. It was cool. So all last night, after the kiddo went to bed, and it was dad's time to just chill, I went through and did my research. The biggest thing that's caught my attention, obviously, is the Cain Velasquez situation. Cain Velasquez is a Hall of Fame, probably one of the best to ever do it, UFC fighters, retired now. I think he was doing some stuff for like other promotions, but he's a retired fighter now. News broke that Cain Velasquez, former UFC heavyweight champion, was arrested for attempted murder. Everyone's like, what? Click the headline. It says a relative very close to Cain was being molested by a man at a daycare center, and Cain took matters into his own hands, apparently. Chased the guy down, found him. However, they engaged with each other. There's a video going around of Cain actually chasing the guy in his truck after he shot at him, apparently, allegedly, and rammed his truck, allegedly. And it's a really fucked up situation because it came out to be that it was Cain Velasquez's 4-year-old daughter who was the victim. Who's blaming Cain Velasquez in this situation, right? Especially any dad, any parent, any person with a rational brain in their head. It sucks because Cain did something that many of us say that we would do in the same situation. And we are going to see, a lot like with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, there's not really a right or wrong in this scenario, right? Everything about it's wrong. What happened to his daughter is wrong. The fact that that man is the way he fucking is completely wrong. And the fact that Cain Velasquez would be in any sort of trouble at all for this, in my opinion, is wrong. But laws are what they are, and, you know, that guy does have a right to a trial. You know, he's only alleged for his crimes. It seems like everybody's pretty, understanding that this guy did what he did. Cain ended up shooting, not the man that is alleged to have molested his daughter, but he shot the stepfather that was driving him around. Here's my thing. If you roll around with pedophiles, even alleged pedophiles, hey, man, keep your head low. Fucking, what the fuck do you want from people, man? And now what? I think this fucking stepdad should automatically just drop all charges. Drop all charges. Let it be done. In the sake of justice isn't served yet. It will never be served. This poor child has an entire lifetime of trauma that will never leave her, probably. And, they said it was hundreds of times. Hundreds of occasions. That's how people know this is pretty much solidified. There's no alleged on the pedophile side. You would think in a time like 2022 and everything going on, we would have some sort of protocol for this, right? How any court, and apparently this guy got released on bail or whatever because of California's lenient laws on holding people in jail. I'm just saying, if you let an alleged pedophile who's alleged to have done this to on hundreds of occasions at a daycare center, what are you asking for? You're just asking these parents to sit around knowing this person's out there and not do anything about that? You have to at some point ask, like, why is a crime a crime? Is it a crime because we say, oh, don't do that? Or is it a crime because it's actually wrong? You had a man that violated a 4-year-old child. The father of that child went and sought redemption, and the only way that, sure, his fury and his emotions and his primal being as a fucking father told him to do. And now I've heard Cain got a mysterious $1 million donation for the best defense team you could possibly get. And they're like, hey, our only goal right now is getting him out on bail, getting him home so we can figure this shit out. Again, I really fucking hope that in today's day and age, Cain Velasquez is not going to see more time behind bars than what he's already seeing right now, as he's being held for attempted murder without bail, which is insane to me. So the same thing could have been avoided. This whole thing could have been avoided had you just held the pedophile without bail. Then Cain can't get to him. Now, he's got the jail to deal with. But who were you doing favors by letting him out on bail? You weren't doing him like his civil right. It's a decision of a magistrate at the time of your booking whether or not you're going to get a bail. So this whole bullshit, like things don't get set up inside of systems and lead people to do shit like this. It's like, well, yeah, should Cain be at fault at all? No, for many reasons. For many fucking reasons. Just moral common fucking sense, Cain. Now there's this hashtag Free Cain going around and everyone's talking about it because Colby Covington shouted it out and whatever. It's like, hey, is there really even that much of a conversation that needs to be had about it? It's amazing that it's taken this long to get Cain out of jail. That's the only amazing thing about all this, is why is he still sitting in jail? And why is the pedophile who was shot at not already reprimanded? Hey, guess what? You got it. You got it figured out. He's not safe out there. So now they're going to do what? Put him in protective custody for the whole duration of his court proceedings, and now he's kind of justified in asking for that? Fuck, man. Now he could even possibly say, oh, this has all gotten so much media attention, I'm made out to be a bad person before I even got to trial. Why give him anything? Why give him a fucking inch? It's disgusting. We'll move on. Because, like I said, it's pretty goddamn obvious. There was a singer, 22-year-old, emo, kind of new age, Billie Eilish type character, Lil Bow Weep, apparently 22 years old, died of unknown causes. Her father said she died fighting her demons, so we pretty much know what that means. We have another suicide afoot. Young girl singing about her sadness. I listened to a few of her songs right before we went on air. Yeah, it sucks, man. And here's one thing that I want everyone to ponder. You know, we've lost a lot of people. We lost Mac Miller in the last couple years. We lost Lil Peep, is my friend Thomas. You know, my homie Thomas. He's a big fan of Lil Peep. We've lost Extension. We've lost, tons of guys. Juice WRLD. Lots of people to overdoses. We just lost Chesley Christ to suicide. It's definitely a pandemic. But I'm starting to think about this suicide mental health pandemic a little differently than I once did. Because I'm a person that I don't want to ever bring up a problem if I don't have a solution theory, at least, right? I'm not saying I have the right solution at any given time, but I at least want to give you a solution to ponder based from my life experiences. So a lot of time I could probably come off as narcissistic, and I think a lot of people struggle with this because when people are talking, you go, oh, I understand that because I went through this, or I know this, or I've learned this, and you try to relate what someone's saying to a life experience you have. It's called connection, right? What we don't do, and what we really can't do, and we see this on big levels, we see it on the smallest level, whether it be personal, romantic relationships, best friend relationships, family dynamics, mother, father, kids, whatever the thing is, just friendship relationships. When are you ever going to meet someone, whether you get to know them for 20 years, when will you ever meet someone who can fulfill you at every moment, through everything that you go through in life, exactly the way you need to be fulfilled. No one. No one will ever be able to do that, right? And this is where I think people fall into religion, God, right? The big thing with Christianity and Catholicism is you lay all your worries and your fears and your stresses at the feet of God, and you repent for all your wrongdoings that they've told you you've done wrong. And you carry around all this weight of guilt that you owe something to someone. Because either you lusted after something or someone, or you wanted more than someone told you you should have, or you loved deeper than someone told you you should have. You know, people tell you you should stop feeling certain ways at certain times after, a certain amount of time has passed, and you try to fake yourself. You try to act like you didn't have dreams and goals and feelings and emotions and, great and terrible times in life. So what happens? Each and every day, every human being, every single one of us, we change. And some of us grow some days, and some days we kind of de-evolve, and some days we stay exactly the same because we just don't have the energy to push forward, and we're not going to allow ourselves to fall back. Understand that that's all happening at one time. So like me as Cam, I'm either evolving today, getting worse, or I'm staying exactly the same. And that could dictate whether 1 hour is super, productive, and then I'm super lazy the next. There's so many variables in life. There's truly never going to be a friend, a partner, a family member that can fill your every need. Spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever it is. So it's like this struggle of the ultimate human condition is you either find a way, and this is where mindfulness comes in, to enjoy the silence of nothingness, and just you have to learn to be able to appreciate, like, okay, I appreciate the fact that I can see the wind blowing through the trees today. Kind of like where I was mentally when I got out of jail. Like stepping out of a jail cell, you're grateful to just see sunshine. You're grateful to see air, wind blowing through trees, and see, oh my God, a bird. Birds are great now. Like you have to kind of get back to that mindset, especially if you struggle with mental health sometimes, because at some point, everything is never good enough. So you're never, like, your marriage is never going to be good enough. Your kids, your relationship with your kids is never going to be good enough. The house is never going to be good enough. Where you stand on social media, your career will never be good enough. There's always going to be more. You'll never make enough money. So, like, that's a fact. We see it. We see it. The richest people want to be richer. The most in love people find ways to, be more in love. The most fashionable people find a way to be more fashionable. It's like the human condition is the issue with turning off the more switch. Why do some of us desire more? I don't know. Because behind every mental health struggle is an idea of what should have been to the one struggling, usually. Well, I'm torn to pieces because this happened, or this will never be the way that I wanted it to be, so therefore I'm filled with all this pain that I don't know what to do with, because I have to come with acceptance. I have to come to acceptance that everything around me is changing all the time, and I really don't control any of it. Outside of the direct action I'm taking each and every moment, I control nothing at all. That's hard. We use the term a lot, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's the hardest, truth is the hardest pill to swallow. It's like, I think realizing that you control nothing in this life and everything you love can be stripped away from you at any moment. But you could also build an entire empire in a year. Everything is possible at all times, and that is fucking maddening to realize. And people ask, oh, how are dogs so, at ease? Why do you see birds don't stress? Well, they're not aware. They don't have the ability to build an empire and see what that looks like and see what that feels like, to take a stage and express your art and let people receive it and give feedback back. They don't know what that feels like. They don't have like a message. I'm not saying they don't. Maybe to their population they do, but like they're not building new worlds. They're not creating new like expansion. They are there to be exactly what they are. Now, again, we've changed animals over the time, but I'm getting away from the point. I'm getting on a ramble now. My point being, like, everyone wants to say, well, why people should be more content. You're always chasing after this. Why don't you, look at a dog. A dog's perfectly happy just laying there eating, going outside. It's like, yeah, but I'm not a dog. So I feel, and I want, and I regret, and I hurt, and I get excited about shit, and I get let down, and I get disappointed, and I get excited when things work out. All those are possible, and I have the ability to feel that full spectrum of things. And over time, you collect moments of excitement and disappointment. What I've learned is you have to choose to cling to the moments of excitement. Whatever makes you happy. I've said it forever. What sets your soul on fire is what you should do. Now, something like skateboarding can set your soul on fire, but it can also kick your ass. It can be your biggest challenge, too. And that, to me, is a big part of getting out of, like, the mental health struggle. If you're, for these artists that turn to their craft of writing music and creating music to escape their demons, well, if you're just opening the door and letting your demons into your craft, you're not really escaping them. If you're making music about being suicidal and all this, I'm not saying don't tell your story, tell your story. But I think we're missing the second half of it, which is here's the struggle and here's at least an attempt at a solution. We're enjoying hanging down in the struggle too much, which is where all the stigmas and stereotypes of mental health come from. And we're not doing any favors by having another headline come up where we've got this super tatted emo girl singing about sadness and suicide, killing herself, supposedly. It looks like. And we don't at least talk about it. Like, okay, we are recognizing the struggle. It's the same thing as like why we love rap music. We can connect to some of the struggles that are talked about. But at what point are we just glorifying struggle and capitalizing on people's catastrophes? It's art. And it's hard to decipher when we should turn it off or look away or not support anymore. Now, I don't know this Lil Bow Weep person. I'd never heard of her before today. But all the same, there's so many artists out there. Mac Miller, I've been listening to him a lot recently. And I watched a quick documentary they made about the last 61 and a half hours of his life. And it was like, man, we can't even die in peace anymore. Like Mac died, it was years ago now. Even in his death, people search up everything and they play the final recording call to the ambulance of his best friend crying over him, and they put out a bunch of details of some things that Mac did in his final hours, and it was like, why? Can't the man die in peace? Like, he clearly struggled so much in his life with pain, and we saw it with the Ariana Grande situation and just many other times that he expressed having real issues of just self-worth and everything else. Up to the including he made his final video, Self-Care, where he dug himself into a grave and burst his way out. And still, we lost him. Why? What is it gonna take? I'm asking, honestly. I would love for someone to tell me. Because what happens, seemingly, you have these artists that nobody really cares about, nobody listens to. It takes a really long time for them to gain traction because they're not doing mainstream type shit. They're doing something completely new, original, heartfelt, emotion, filled. They'll catch a year or two where they blow, And that success is usually what brings them down, because the success didn't bring the happiness. It just brought more resources to open bigger doors to let bigger demons in. That ultimately is their own demise. Now, Mac Miller was sold false pills that killed him, laced with fentanyl. So I'm not encouraging drug use, but I'm saying had he been given the actual drugs he was given, he would not have overdosed on the amount that he took. He was murdered. He was given drugs that he didn't buy, and it killed him. And the people responsible, I believe, are like their court cases are this month. It's taken that long because this guy's like tried to flee all responsibility, which is another thing, man. It sucks so bad that like you killed a man. You killed not a celebrity, not an icon, not a musical genius. You killed a human being. And your immediate reaction, while you had no problem taking the money or profiting off of it, capitalizing on his catastrophe, his drug addiction, you had no issue in that. But you do have issue taking responsibility for killing him, for his life no longer being here and him no longer having a chance to battle to maybe get off the drugs or release an album that could change someone else's life, or, you know. We lost that to pain, to needing to cover up because someone, again, didn't feel loved enough. No one had the time in their day to sit with this Lil Bow Weep, Chesley Christ, Extension, Juice WRLD, Mac Miller. What the fuck is everyone doing that we're so busy? What is that important? What is going on that's that important? Like, I guarantee everybody listening to this right now has somebody in their mind that they know they should text and just check on, and we won't do it because it's uncomfortable. Why? Because they might go, yeah, I'm fine. Why? Why are you checking on me? Because it might be uncomfortable to go, hey, man, because I know you struggle sometimes. I just want to see if you're good. What are you going to do, offend somebody by recognizing their struggle? You're not. You're probably going to make their fucking day. But we can't, because we got to chase the hustle. We got to chase the grind. We got to post another thing. We got to, hope that we get this many more followers. It's like, dude, who gives a fuck? This whole world is going to shit. We'll be lucky if there's a social media platform in 10 years to have followers on. I'm telling you, we all better get real used to walking outside and enjoying just being outside. Because if you can't separate from what this is and what this is becoming, I'm afraid to tell you, I think you're real close to being just lost at sea. It became a small problem with television when people started to want to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with what they saw being sold to them on TV. But people forgot, like, the same car that they drove in the sitcom, there was a commercial for that same vehicle during the ad break, which just told you that your car outside wasn't good enough and you had to go get that one so you could be just like the ones that you see on TV. Up to and including the same clothes that they wear. I mean, look, I'm promoting my own shit right now. Everybody's just trying to make it out here. I think when it comes to stuff, you just have to make a choice. And it's so hard. I've told this to many doctors and therapists. It's so hard to just put the brakes on a thought, isn't it? You get this, self-deprecating thought or idea. Hey, everything I'm working towards might be worth dick, and maybe I'm just wasting all my time. And that's probably a rational thought to have. But if you're going to be any sort of success in life, you have to be able to stop that thought in its tracks, or you'll convince yourself every day to not turn the camera on or pick up the paintbrush or, turn the mic on to record that song or whatever it is. And you'll never get to the point in the journey where you realize, and I love this quote so much, and I'm going to gap on who said it right now, but it's Prince. Sometimes it takes many years for someone to become an overnight success. And that's almost everyone. It's almost everyone who ever became anything. The problem is we lose so many people in that journey. And we go, yep, that's life. People chasing greatness. Sometimes we lose them to their demons. It's like, yeah, but we got to stop just saying that as if it's something we accept like a long red light in our local town. Oh, well, that's just the way that is. It's like, well, hey, somebody change the fucking light. Can we fix this? There's nobody ever coming this way, yet I'm stuck at this fucking light for 5 minutes. Why? I'm losing all these amazing people who are so full of love and full of just want to see the world be healed, and yet we don't pay any attention to these people because they look weird. They're tatted up and they make themselves look crazy. I wonder why they do that. Maybe they want some attention that they're screaming for. They're hurting. They're suffering. And it's easy, I find it ironic. She's talking about all these feelings and emotions that, aren't validated, and she's just constantly hurting. And her dad is the first one to comment. Pops, where we at? Where we at? Like, I'm not saying you can, as a parent, I know damn well you cannot control your kids. I got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. And you can't control them even at that age, let alone at 22. She's going to do what she's going to do. But at the same token, I think sometimes as parents, and I can speak on this just with my kids being the ages that they are, sometimes you look at your kids and you go, oh, I gave you too easy of a life. You've got it too easy. That's why you're struggling the way that you are. And it is an unfortunate thing to realize, but sometimes the benefits of the life you create could also become the weaknesses of your children. So, sure, my kids don't want for things or need for things like I did, or, have feelings like, they're inadequate, or that the reason that their parents aren't around is because they're not loved. Like my kids don't struggle with that like I did. I go above and beyond to make sure that my kids will never question whether their dad loves them or whether their dad's working for them and, that they're taken care of. But at the same token, it's like, because of that, my kids don't know much stress, right? Like, my kids have never had to cook their own dinners. My kids have never had to, wonder where their parents are and why they didn't come pick them up, or, stuff like that. It's so, again, different upbringings breed different stresses, because we talked about it with the Chet Hanks thing. Like, affluenza is a real thing where rich kids commit suicide because they have this immense pressure to be something when they grow up. And it's like, hey, not everyone can be exceptional. It takes exceptional to be exceptional. And it seems like more recently, the closer you get to being exceptional, the closer it brings you to death. Whether it's you got to put your body on the line doing athletics or stunts or, whatever, crazy, shit for YouTube or the gram, or you got, you destroy your body with drugs and alcohol because you can't manage the pain of life, both of which I'm guilty of. So again, I think if we just take time and look around and be less judgmental and genuinely give a fuck about each other, I think we could turn this thing around. But it's going to take a serious effort, and that's why I started everything I started, the Road to Redemption podcast. This is my road to redemption for all the fucked up shit I've done in my life and all the terrible decisions I've made, is to try to be able to go into the minds of those that maybe are a little rough around the edges and maybe do some things that aren't so, great. Drug addictions, addicts, alcoholics, the ruffians of the world. The people that literally can't go, hey, I'm hurting, because they don't know how. They don't even know that that's why they're doing what they're doing. So it's one of those situations where I think, if anything, we are at a time where we can at least easily raise awareness quickly. Whether we do it with tragedies, we share the death of a celebrity faster than anything. We can share a breaking news article, but why are we so slow to share support? What is it about the human being that if I share this and it makes it seem like I want to help people for real, not like I'm supporting some team or some political party or some political agenda or whatever, all these things that we identify ourselves with that don't really matter, what if I applied all that energy to someone or something that I can actually affect? I think it's because the latter is harder. It's harder to look at your situation, see someone struggling. I remember from doing missionary work and, trying to convert people to Christianity as a young teen, I remember the hardest part is just starting the conversation like, are you a believer in God? It's the same, like, are you a believer? Are you a Christian? That's a hard question to ask somebody because it's uncomfortable. It's the same thing as going, are you thinking about committing suicide right now? It's a very direct and personal question. And it takes a certain type of person and a certain type of give a fuck inside of you to go, I care about you and your well-being more than I care about the uncomfort that this initial shock is going to cause both of us. Both think they're doing it to save a life, so you can appreciate the effort in that. Now, whether or not personal boundaries are crossed, that's a different episode. Guys, I love you so much, and I don't want to see anyone else be lost. I hate watching people suffer every day. I watch people online and just watching, I had a shit day today, so I'm going to take a long shower and just try to think. That bums me out. I'm like, damn, man. I know bad days will always come, and right behind them will be good days, but we got to find a way to at least look at this as possibly this is the way the human species has evolved to possibly self-destruct, and can we stop it? Because that's what we're doing. We're self-destructing at a rapid rate as human beings. In more ways than just one. I don't want to see that. I love you guys so much. Check out everything we got going on over at the Road to Redemption podcast. Know how much I love you, and we will see you on Wednesday.